All right, Michelle, I have 9 o'clock. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I am Laura Hanselcheck, Superintendent at Valley Falls, but KASCD Executive Director, and super excited to do these network sessions again this year. And I've asked Michelle if she wouldn't mind joining us this morning for just a conversation. I know there's a lot of questions out there kind of around KESA, and it's always nice to be able to get those questions answered, but at the same time share the great things that are happening in districts around us, and so we can steal from each other. So with that, I'm gonna open the floor to anyone that would kind of like to ask the first question.
Should I tell you all who I am real quick before you do that?
Yeah.
Most of you may have seen my name or had an opportunity to hear me in some other space and place, but I'm Michelle Miller. I'm the Director of Teacher Licensure and Accreditation at the State Department. And I come into this position after 35 years in a variety of positions from Western Kansas to Eastern Kansas as a superintendent in a small school, assistant superintendent in a large school, building principal in a place that's near and dear to my heart and to Bill Losey, Hugoton Middle School, probably 4 of the best, most collaborative learning years of my time. And longtime educator from Dodge City, Kansas, Sublette Service Center. I talk about it and I try not to just go, oh my gosh, these people I'm speaking to are going to go, she is wackadoodle. No, I think I just was always interested in learning and growing in different places and in different environments. So that's my rationale. So that's who I am. I recognize lots and lots of faces and names, and really after talking with Valora, I just would love this opportunity to have a conversation about everything and anything that's on your mind relative to accreditation. And when we actually officially have the presentation later in the morning, you may hear some of the same things, but I've learned that saying it once doesn't make it so, saying it twice doesn't make it so, saying it 1,000 times doesn't always make it so. It's good to hear it in different ways and ask the questions, please, in different ways. So happy to help and go for it.
Michelle, it's Bill. When the outside visitation team comes, we're a year 4 district, and I'm getting wind that they're going to be asking for evidence on those foundational structures and the board outcomes. So you want to give some examples of what that might look like?
Sure. Most of us are in year 4 with the pause, et cetera. And I'll tell you right now, you are required today, I always look at my watch, October 15th of 2021, to have an outside visitation team visit. That's not a validating team. That's a constructive partnership. That's a person or group of people that come to you to ask you hard questions, Bill. And we are trying to train and front load those teams and those leaders to ask questions about the foundational structures. My good friend Jeanette Nobo will always give the same speech. You know, through COVID, we would have phone calls from folks saying, I want to open my own school. And so she says to them, all right, bare minimum to be on the KSDE radar of accreditation is you must be in the process of implementing and growing those foundational structures as set forth by the state board. So yes, in fact, the team that I've worked closely with, that school district, for an example, Bill, has a little group of people that work on each of the foundational structures. I love that there's a intentional team working on arts and cultural appreciation in that system. So they're providing all those wonderful opportunities for kids, right? And there's a little team of people that bring them Cinderella, that bring them, I don't know, that take them out to look at a Vietnam War memorial that comes through, or the quilt of honor or valor, whatever that is, all of those things that enrich and create the whole child, right? So a little team that can speak to that, or from the system level in Hugoton that talks about ways in which we are addressing each of those structures, and evidence enough of them, Bill, is that it is written in your summary that this is how we do this. These are the people responsible for this piece.
Thank you for that clarification. So the document in the summary will precise, we just don't need to go out and collect all these little pieces and throw them in a folder and
No.
share them out. Okay, thanks.
No, if you're collecting a piece, I would tell you the program from Cinderella is, that's fine. I mean, if you want to put that in there, you have an artifacts tab where you can store your story. If you feel like that's a supporting document, a supporting piece of evidence to the work that you are doing, lovely. Less is more, my friends. The ARC, your OVT, your board, your anyone who looks through your documents, educators have a tendency to think, I'm going to put more in there. More is merrier. No, less is more. Streamline. I've been on this mantra for a long time. Streamline. Streamline. It doesn't have to be. In fact, it's worse if it is. We've had systems that the ARC has said, there was so much I couldn't even get through. So it's not meaningful. All right. Concise, meaningful, supportive to the things that you are trying to do inside your system.
I know one of the things that we have done, Bill, and actually I saw Jean on here, I stole from Hiawatha when I was consulting for them, was they had created a Google folder and they actually had a sheet in there. There was a table of contents. And so as they went through their cycle, they just added documents and then they just tied them to that table of contents as evidence. It's awesome. So if somebody asks a question, I click on the link that says evidence for arts and cultural, and anything that's in that folder, it's there.
Okay.
Hyperlinked and found on page 6.
So we looked at, our district leadership team looked at all those rubrics for the foundational structures, and they were overwhelmed. So, and I appreciate their honesty and telling me I'm pushing too hard, too fast. So
Yeah,
I've taken those rubrics apart and I put them in a Google form so we can push them out. And then the building leadership teams, I'm just going to push them out one at a time and they can look at those. And in there, they have to cite evidence or make a statement why they chose the level they chose. I don't know if it'll work or not, but that's what we're trying here.
So the beauty of what you're trying to do there is say, well, 2 things. First of all, it doesn't all have to be done tomorrow. There's a lot of argument about how long should the process be. To your point, it does not all have to be done tomorrow. Continuous, ongoing, right? So if you have pieces of data relative to the foundational structures, you're going to look at those. Tiffany's going to take those into her early childhood center. She's going to work with teachers who are boots on the ground, who are leaders in her building, who are going to say, we think we're here. I hope that, although overwhelming, because that's what happens when we give you all 7,000 resources, you get overwhelmed and think you have to do every one of them. Although overwhelming, I hope they're meaningful. I don't even hope. The intention is that they are meaningful, that they drive student outcomes, and they align to the vision of the state board, right? Bill, Tiffany doesn't have to have those all finished for you tomorrow. She can work on those over time. That's why this idea of continuous is so powerful, right? And more importantly, too, to what you said, get it down to the teacher level. Okay, so you just heard that Hiawatha. I'm going to tell you, my good friend Trevor Ashcraft, he has another document that's super helpful. Redesign had a workbook that's super helpful. If that's a piece that's evidence to what you're doing, phenomenal. We gave several examples inside the guidance document. There are several online. We try not to overwhelm, because then Jacqueline will look at it and go, God, do we have to do all of this? No, you pick the thing that works for you, that supports the work that you're doing, that's integrated, that's meaningful, and use that thing, right? And if you, like I said, if you need another resource, Valora just said Hiawatha has one. Trevor has one in USD 380. We just recently talked with Auburn Washburn. They've got one. I know that Seaman has one. They're all over the place. And what's beautiful about it, the piece I love and will continue to love about accreditation is You can build what works for you, Marty, in Lakin, because that's not going to work in Kansas City, Kansas. You build the system meeting the process that works for you. Come on, there has to be more.
I was gonna say, or is anybody else doing something that they want to share that's working for them with those rubrics?
Now, are you talking the old rubrics or the revised rubrics for the next cycle?
Oh, Stephanie,
know-
yes, Stephanie.
What we are doing here in Colby, it's very similar to our foundational audit that we've done the last couple of years. So we're taking the revised colorful rubrics and adding a fourth or fifth column, and we're going to put in all of our evidence to that as we work with our different outcome, our groups and state board outcomes and our foundational structures and the such.
Yes. So yes, 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 and yes, some more yes. We have created another opportunity for you. You will hear over time lots of conversation about a component-based analysis that is for me to connect the dots. Right when we teach kids about a new thing and we want to hang it on the hook of previous memory. You just heard Stephanie do that. So Stephanie is saying we took rubrics here, there, wherever, hung them on what we knew as ours, updated ours, colorful rubrics, whatever, and we're moving forward. The R rubrics, if you need them, we've got updated ones and we can do that. We also have another system that we're going to be using in sort of a pilot throughout this next year that will more fully saturate the market, if you will, with. But that tool is not the point. The point is that you are data gathering, that you are analyzing, and you are comprehensively finding out everything you can about Sublette schools, Satana schools, Dodge City schools. You're gathering all of that up. That's where the power is. And you also heard Stephanie say we added a thing. Well, they needed to add a thing because that's what worked for Colby. Do the data analysis that's deep and meaningful for you inside your system. Do we have some tools? We sure do. We absolutely do. We can help you with that. We will talk you through it, because I'm going to back up for a moment and say, I'll own it, because I was working at Southwest Plains when we did this. Oh my goodness sakes. We had phenomenal conversations all over Western Kansas on the R rubrics. There are people on this call that don't even know what I'm talking about when I say the R rubrics. There are superintendents that weren't here 5-6 years ago when I say R rubrics that don't even know what I was talking about. There are principals who are 28 and have no clue what I'm talking about. But we did these beautiful events relative to the R rubrics. We had great conversations. Man, I remember, oh gosh, look at us. We do a great job here. We're phenomenal here. I might not be so good here, but I'm going to post. And we stopped. We didn't take the time to pull those sheets of paper off. Bill Losey was there too. Go into a room and say, wow, my friends, what did this tell us? And what should we do next? When we know better, we do better. I wish I had been able to go back to those systems and say, oh my goodness sakes, we needed to really address X, Y, or Z. You can't stop at step 1. You got to go to 2, 3, 4, and 5, or whatever. You got to take it and do something with it. Otherwise, it's a colossal waste of time. And our children in Kansas do not have time for a colossal waste of time. Mic drop. Sorry.
I added a link to the, if you don't know what they're talking about when they talk about the updated foundational structures, rubrics, I added the link to the State Department website so that you can click on that and see what they're talking about.
Oh, and by the way, you want to find another phenomenal set of rubrics? Look at the star recognition rubrics. Kim Mock had us out to Southwest Plains, and we did. I had no idea that that day with folks out in Western Kansas was going to be as powerful as it was. We walked a group of people through the early childhood, the kindergarten readiness rubric. Wow, you know, for me, I thought, again, we're just going to go put dots on a sheet and whatever. No, they've been built here to help you help kids, to help you do better for kids, not just a moment to check a thing off a list. Deep, meaningful, and powerful. And I don't know if Kim would want to chat. She was sort of in and out that day, I think, Kim, but she gets to talk to the folks that are there tomorrow after that day. And I think it generated a lot of really great conversation, caused people to stop and really empower themselves as teacher leaders. The one group I talked about was all teachers, and they were like, okay, we really don't feel like we have the, what are we going to do? Yes, you do. You're the ones that are right there in the classroom and can impact kids. So the STAR rubrics are super helpful in that regard too. All great tools to help you do what you need to do to help improve outcomes for kids.
Michelle, Shane Clark, USD 252, Southern Lyon County. Have some questions about state assessment results as it works with KESA, and being in a small school district. Are there other pieces of data that we can use to make sure that the ARC team understands that, you know, that we are small and there are going to be some variations, and taking a look at it over time, and like we would like to use also our MAPS data, because that really does show year-to-year growth for individual students, rather than by a class, where sometimes you can have teacher turnover, which can make a big difference if you've had a veteran teacher that's really solid, and then you're bringing in a first-year teacher. You know, they're just not going to have the same kind of experience. What is your guidance there, as far as, because in a small district, we see a lot of this, because our numbers are just low, and, you know, you get a small class and maybe a class that doesn't perform as well on state assessments. You know, we're going to have that downward slope, but then, you know, we could have that next group that, you know, shoots it out of the water. How does the ARC look at that?
Shane, how many kids do you have in your district?
We have about, I'm going to say about 450.
Okay.
Well,
I asked because, you know, I pick on the people I know. So sorry, Trevor. Superintendent in Vermilion, about 600 kids, right? So I wanted to have a little connection with you there. So state assessment matters. Remember, the power of the state assessments is it's in its predictive value, moving forward success on ACT, and being post-secondary ready academically. If you listen to State Board at all this week, across the street, I'm blessed every morning, the Capitol's right here out my window. So the legislators, the group of them came over, met with the State Board. Academics matter. I don't think Randy or the State Board ever wants people to think academics don't matter. They do matter. So Shane, here's the answer to your question. You give the state assessments once a year, right, man? You're given the MAP, FastBridge, whatever else throughout the year. That data evidence supports you in the minute. So yes, include a score report as an artifact. Reference it when you talk about the value of academics in Southern Lyon County, South Lyon County, sorry, I don't want to mess that up, in your district, right? Evidence that, talk about it, reference it in the artifacts. Meaningful, friends, would that be meaningful to a group of constructive partners coming to see you? Yes. Would that be meaningful to the ARC? I think I have some people on the ARC in this video with us here today. Yes. Just make it neat and clean and easily accessible for them. That's where it is most powerful, because you're right. And let's be honest here, ACT results have come out bad all over the world. Bad, bad, bad. I talked to a teacher slash mom yesterday who said, my kid's in the 2nd grade and hasn't had a normal year yet. Academics are going to go. And so a strong MTS system with data, Shane, is a foundational structure. Is that right? Yes, foundation. Always have to look at my little chart. Strong foundational structure that we need to have more power with now than probably ever before. And you're going to find a tight data piece, Shane, not 62 data pieces, friends. You're going to kill people when you do that. One tight data package tight data that measures the things that we are doing. Stay the course, put blinders on, stop the other assessment shiny objects. Guarantee you, every vendor in the world is going to be calling you with we can help you combat COVID loss. We can help you combat COVID loss. No, thank you. I have a tight data package.
Thank you.
Sure. You know, while you're all pausing to craft phenomenal questions, I saw the star rubrics in the chat. Teaching tool, my friends. People fuss with me all the time about, gotta fill out a yearly summary, gotta fill out a yearly summary. Okay, fine, I get it. That is the one piece of accountability the state board has for the ARC to use to make a recommendation to them. We tried to update it, those of you who have seen it, and Jeanette will talk through it a little bit more later, in a way that is aligned to the state board's vision. Can we always do better? Yes, yes, absolutely we can. But it is also, you heard Bill Losey talk about how overwhelmed their team felt. Tell them to take a deep breath. I know it's overwhelming. Same is true in the summary, but Bill, I'm going to tell you, my friend, open up the summary for whatever year y'all are in and start it now. Make it a living, breathing part of the, thank you, I saw the thumbs up, a living, breathing part of the conversation. The horror comes when you wait till the day before the visit. Yes, I'd be horrified too.
We just started throwing things in as we think about them, just little tidbits of reminders so that when we get towards, there'll never be a slowdown to do this. I get that. But when we perceive there's a slowdown happening, then we can start putting all those thoughts into an organized text.
Bill, I'll meet you at the lake in the spring and give you a beer. So here's the other part to that. Bill Losey and Adrian Howie are going to win the lottery one day, right? They're going to win the lottery and they're going to go off and he's going to hang out at the lake and fish and do what we do at the lake. And Adrian's, I don't know what Adrian, they're going to win the lottery. New people are going to come in there who don't have, it could even be someone from out of state because Hugoton lives near borders, right? If there's not a house for that new person to come to find the story, they're going to say, oh, nothing here. I'm going to take this district on a new journey. And guess what every teacher in that new district is going to do at that point? They're going to go, what the heck? There has to be a house for the story, a streamlined house for the story, a place where you can tell the story and somebody new can come in and say, oh, okay. Because let me tell you, that phone on my desk in July started ringing with new superintendents going, I think I went into this thing and found nothing. And they're already drinking from a fire hose, trust me. They don't know an SO66 from a directory, from a build a budget, make yourself sick, and then here's this thing with nothing in it. So that's the other important piece of that house we built. Is it perfect? No. Can it grow and change? Yes. But it can't grow and change every day. It has to work a while and then grow it. So there's a process for that anyway. I really haven't had a whole lot of coffee this morning, but it sure sounds like it.
Well, I think I would add too that we talked about not doing the rubrics, and after a long discussion decided that we wanted to go ahead and do that within our own district. And it was the best reflection that we could have ever walked ourselves through for, you know, just what are we doing is stakeholder engagement and what can we get better at. So if anything, even if you don't turn it in or provide the evidence or whatever, those rubrics are really nice just to reflect on the school improvement process in those areas for your own district.
A teaching tool, right? Because my goodness sakes, friends, I am after all a teacher. So if there is a way that the pieces that you're having to complete, work, and do, to Valora's point, are powerful, meaningful conversations and lead you to a better thing, score. And then that can't help but help kids, right? You don't have to do the rubrics to win a recognition. You don't have to. Might it be really exciting for you all. I got to tell you, I walked into USD 380. Those buildings were aligned with, and again, people on this call don't even know what I'm talking about. The little plaques we all used to get. We stopped basketball games to honor kids who were successful in reading math. They hung up all the plaques and all the banners. So there is some power in that. It also is a great community builder. The other thing, Valora, that you said, gee, my train falls off the track more often than not, Reese. Oh, I know what it is. Okay. So that house I was talking about, the authenticated app, what a great place to store a communication plan artifact that you can also pull a piece out of, Marty, when you need to go talk to the local Lions Club. That you can also pull a piece out of for your Friday superintendent curriculum report, whatever. Again, let's work with efficiency, with intentionality, and not do more just because we think more is better. The worst story I've heard in the last 4 or 5 years was a system, honest to Pete, this is a true story, who Monday did MTSS Day when their admin team got together. Tuesday, they did KLN Day. Wednesday, they did Redesign Day. Thursday, they did KESA Day. Those are all the same thing. Those are all about continually improving our processes to do better for kids, are they not? Might use a little bit different language here or a little bit different here, but I think what I've come to understand is language and words matter when you're communicating. Sweet and simple means more to people. I love the people in my life who aren't educators. We've got one in our office and I love it because he'll come in and he'll say, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm like, Ed, blah, 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 blah. And he'll say, no, that makes no sense to me. Okay, that means it's not going to make sense to others as well. So.
What other great questions are out there?
They don't even have to be great.
All right, I'm going to switch gears since nobody else is asking. Kansas Teacher of the Year Recognition Program. Anybody out there participating? And if so, do you have any local rubrics that you're using to help narrow down your list?
Not to brag, but you might want to visit with Dodge City, Bill.
I
Seems
know.
to have a few of them coming out of Dodge City. Yay, go Red Demons.
Okay, I hear crickets, so they're on my list to contact. Yes, thanks, Michelle.
Great question. Does anybody else? If you don't have any KESA questions, we can open this up to other questions. What other hot topics are out there right now that you would
May
like
I
to
ask one of the group?
Yeah.
Do you mind, Valor?
know? That's
So,
what this is for.
yeah, so my question to you all would be, actually not a question. Tell me how I help make this more user-friendly. And you can turn cameras off, you can put it in the chat, you can, I am open to everything and anything you got. Is there something that we collectively as an agency could do to help you make all this more user-friendly?
Are you talking about school improvement and the KESA process, Michelle?
Yeah, I am. Sorry. There was Bill's question, then my brain
Yep,
came back. I apologize.
Just wanted to clarify.
And actually, if you wanted to just put that in the chat and ask other questions, that's fine too. I just appreciate the time with y'all.
So Michelle, I will say, in working and supporting several districts, making connections so they don't feel like things are so isolated. And I know that that's not what KSDE does, or that's not the intention. But when I think about those rubrics, which we all would agree are great sources, and in the authenticated apps, each part has its section, how do we work towards making those things be more cohesive so it doesn't seem like I'm doing this here and then doing this here? And so I'm happy to spread that message and support that. But when a system says those words to me, it's hard for me to respond without making it seem like I'm trying to be negative in one fashion or another. When if we would just look at it as continuous school improvement, these resources are here for that purpose. But I think if the North Star is the state board outcomes and we all need to be moving towards that, then I need to be using these resources, but seeing how those pieces come together. And maybe I'm off, but that's just my thought.
You're not off. So if they haven't been inside the app yet to see updates from previous, you'll see them much more aligned to state board outcomes, which the rubrics are aligned to state board outcomes as well. To your point, though, what a great way to see it evidenced on a STAR rubric in one fashion and also see it in the summary in exactly the same fashion, right? Thank you. Good. I think language matters. Aligned language matters, so that when we do it in different spaces and places with different language. So that is a piece that Jeanette and my team will look at over the course of this year with what's in there and see if there's not greater alignment. Good, thank you. I value that. In the chat too, you've seen some conversation on OVTs and chairs. Yes. And again, I think I'm talking, so two things going on, OVTs and chairs. Let's talk about that for a minute. In the places where that has worked well, this group provides chairs who can really go in and provide that constructive partnership, right? When you have someone that comes in, and I've seen it in several districts, man, we had a great visit with our chair. We had such a great day with our chair and team yesterday, and it was super constructive and super powerful. Yay. Unfortunately, my friends, I do not have 350 of those. Remember, private schools too. I do not have 350 people who have said, pick me, can't wait to be somebody's chair, because it is a form to fill out, to review, to make comments on, that has, what do I want? Not power, but has impact when the ARC looks at it. So the ARC wants to look at that summary and have it be an impactful minute, right? So when that constructive partnership is great, it's phenomenal, it's awesome. What stinks is that piece that's on the other end. When someone calls and says, I have no chair, I have no people, I have no opportunity, what do I do? Well, I got 6 who are running 6 different districts. So in theory, it should work. In theory, it should work. I think we can do that better. I think we can do that different. I think we can do that in more meaningful and constructive ways moving forward. But as I told you, Friday, October 15th, the way that we've been doing it exists for the rest of this year for all y'all. And I'm going to stop right there. Not going to confuse it with another statement. So I wanted to say that piece. And again, to Robin's point about it feels like a lot. Kim, another place of alignment, Kansas Star. If you're using Kansas Star, it does not look like our yearly summary. Should it, could it? I'm going to say yes. Will it tomorrow? No. But should it and could it? Yes. Have we heard that? Yes. Can we make progress on that? Yes. Tomorrow? No. Well, let's just be honest. Sure, Robin. Where are you from, by the way, Robin? Where you can put that in the chat. Valora, what flow chart are you talking about?
Just the visual that has the mission statement and then the outcomes, and then I mean it's just all laid out and your foundational structures at the bottom. So I refer to that as like a house.
Oh yeah. So what if we made that better? What if we pulled that evidence-based practices, I'm looking at mine, our piece out and put a model of continuous student improvement, achievement, bloody thing in there. That what you would, again, I'm going to connect on a previous hook. What you all would know is a growth cycle. a cycle of continuous improvement. If we put something there in the middle, to me, that chart then comes alive, even more alive. And I've talked about this in the agency too. I would love to have that be on the KESA homepage. And then you clicked on the IPS link and it took you to phenomenal IPS resources. You clicked on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it took you to, so how about that dream, friends? Wouldn't that be lovely? You clicked on each one of those growth cycle or cycle of improvement blocks, and we'll talk about that more later in the full group too. And it took you to great resources. I dream a dream. There are dreams that can come true. It just takes a little time.
And I say flow chart, but I think anytime we can do a visual to start to the why of what we're doing, I mean, we all know that people need that why to move forward. And so,
yes, ma'am. And I love that. Sorry to interrupt you. I love that you think about that chart as a house, because it's true. I told you that Jeanette starts with foundational structures with a new school, compliance too. KESA is not just continuous school improvement. It's foundational structures, it's compliance, it's bigger than just that one piece. So when you put it on the chart, you see the whole picture, right? If we can get that visual on the whole picture, the house stands still, stands solid on solid rock with the compliance and the foundational work. And we all have a point A there, and we all can get better with a point B. Robin's point about it's a lot. People have said to me recently, so you're telling me I got to have 22 goals. I mean, really count them all. A goal in foundational structures, a goal in this, a goal in that, a goal for the successful high school graduate. I'm going to lead Kansas in the blah, 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 blah. 22 goals? No, because then you are going to drive people absolutely nuts. But if you aren't looking at a complete picture, how can you decide where your gaps are? How can you decide where your strongest areas of improvement are? Welcome, Robin from Pleasanton.
so maybe that's something that, Michelle, we could bring. I know did I see Jeanette on here too? To the KESA advisory group is, how do we update that visual so that we could answer Kim's question and, allowing people to have that visual of how the pieces fit together. Because I think of when your house is in a community and there are certain, here's the colors that you can paint your house. And I'm going to the extreme, but that's what it makes me think of, is there's so many pieces when you have a house, the hot water heater, you've got your siding, you've got and that's what I think of the KESA model, but you don't focus on everything at once. If you're saving money, you focus on the thing that you need to fix first. And then once that's fixed, you move to the next piece, and but you still have the house, and you still have a list of things that you're improving little by little. You're just narrowing the big focus.
I want to run my computer out to right outside my door where I have teeny tiny handprints from USD 380 Early Childhood Center painting. Can you just imagine them all? They're probably fifth graders now. And then in the middle, it says what's best for kids. So we've been talking for 45 minutes, and I would be remiss if I did not stop and say that this powerful, important work is what's best for kids. This powerful, important work is what's best for kids. And so we all do it a little bit different, but we're all trying to do what's best for kids. And a strong foundation in the house, I like Valora's example. Everyone can relate to a house, right? Is what's best for kids. So I also threw in the chat process, execution, and outcomes. Dr. Watson has said that to me a few times recently, said it to the state board. Our KESA definitions of accredited, conditionally, whatever, fit that bill. Valora, your conversation that you want to have with Jeanette and the Accreditation Advisory Council and editing that piece in the middle, we're having that conversation too, is super powerful. But my friends, it is every day and in every way, always about what's best for kids.
The school improvement process has been around as long as I've been in education. I mean, I'm looking at data analysis by Victoria Bernhardt. I see two different, I mean, that conversation has never changed in Kansas. And sometimes we get, I'm going to go back to what Bill said, we get overwhelmed with all the pieces and we forget it's just good school improvement. And if we're doing good school improvement, you're going to make progress. You're going to impact students' learning.
Let me say one more thing, and then I'll take my little note that I keep here at my desk that says shut up, because I have a habit of talking too much. There is nothing in this process of accreditation that holds you back from being creative, from being innovative, from doing different than we did last year, last week. Nothing. The only thing that holds you back from creativity, innovation, and doing different for kids is you and your team. You heard Bill say they were overwhelmed. Bill Losey, okay, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. It's okay. What can we do? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? Find the big bites that matter the most, that empower people to do better for kids every day and to be as innovative and creative and engaging as you want to be. Nothing in this process will hold you back from that.
Great point, Tammy. And that goes back, I think, to what Michelle said too. When you change leaders in your district, whether it be a principal, whether it be a lead teacher that's had a huge impact in the school improvement process, and that I will circle back to that plan has to be fluid, but if we don't have it documented somewhere and that person leaves the district, it's just pandemonium and frustrating for our teachers. And they're already frustrated and with COVID and the things that are happening in our districts. So we've got to do whatever we can do to simplify the process and support them.
What I like about the KESA process is that it doesn't fix you to those initial strategies or even your initial goals. Our OVT came in and they are phenomenal. They're also difficult. And that's why they're phenomenal, because they came in and they asked us difficult questions. In year 2, we were not where we needed to be. We didn't have a clear understanding of what our true goals were and what the process was going to be. And so those are the questions that they asked us. And it was very uncomfortable that day, but it allowed for a lot of really great conversation in the wake of that meeting. We went back, we actually revised one of our goals because it was too broad. It lacked the specificity that it needed. And so that didn't give us that clear direction. In the KESA process, we were able to describe why we made those changes, because we were responsive to our OVT suggestions, and then what we did to improve that process going forward. That's something that I think in the beginning of KESA, we were very concerned about, because we thought, oh, this is our plan, this is our goal, this is what we have to do. But it's a responsive plan. We need to look at our data, see whether or not it's being impactful, and then alter our path going forward.
Guess who their superintendent was in the midst of that process? That would be me. And how I wish I could go back now and do that. I wish that, Trevor, we could have sat down and wish and try and hope, to me, are really weak leadership words, but how lovely would it be how lovely would it have been for me to have witnessed that? And they did it. And that team came back the next year, I would assume, Trevor, and said, better, 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 better.
We were very welcoming of the praises that we got next year, because it was like we got spanked the year before.
That's that meaningful, constructive partnership. They're not there to spank you, but it worked, right? It made them stop and think and revisit the work that they were doing. I think another, let's not forget the power in the teacher leader piece, right? Our larger systems have a lot of support. They have a lot of support in district offices, et cetera. And then they just have to push that down to the teacher level and get that buy-in. And I think the streamline, because y'all have talked about they're tired, you're right, they're tired, but the streamlining of, oh yeah, we're working on X and Y. We're not working on X, Y, LMNOP, QR, A, B, C, D, 1, 6, and 7 as well, right? So that teacher leader piece is super powerful, always has been. You heard Valora talk about continuous improvement. School improvement's been around for years. Who made those great big notebooks? Those of us that have been around a while in QPA days. The great book, yeah, we were classroom teachers, right? Classroom teachers did it then. They were leading then. Might not, might kind of narrow, but teacher leaders were doing it then. Kim's smiling because she was probably photocopying those and putting those notes anyway. So the OVT, the requirement, Carrie, is the OVT, you have that visit once a year. I have witnessed even more powerful opportunities when superintendent, curriculum director, whatever, have that relationship that they can tap in throughout the year with that chair and say, hey, it's a mentor partnership almost, right? Hey, I'm thinking about bloody, what do you think? And that chair can go, well, bloody, whatever. That's a great partnership, right? So yes, you have to do it once a year, but any additional conversations along the way are lovely. And again, that's October 15th, 2021.
Michelle, Carrie has a question you might want to talk to there in the chat.
On the how often they have a visit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just did, just to say you have to do it once a year, and that any extra additional conversation that's helpful would be lovely. And typically that's in the spring. I can hear Jeanette thinking 2 doors down from me. If you're a year 5 system, which whatever, year 5, phase 5, link 5, whatever. If it's your time to come before the ARC for a recommendation, the earlier you can have that visit, the better. Our poor state board gets to see me and has seen me every month for the last 400 months because COVID didn't help us get people together as an ARC and to make the recommendations and work the process. So if it's your time to bring your system to the ARC, the sooner you can have that visit, that time, your everything complete, the better. Certainly helps them. They have about 90 to review, and they're starting that now. And I want to be able to one day say in June, hi board, here are all the systems that are, or July or whatever it is, here are all the systems before you for an accreditation recommendation on status, and ask all your questions. And next month I'll ask for full approval for that. But we've had to drag it out. We've had to drag it out. COVID did not help us there. How would they possibly come to the district and not meet with the leadership team from each building? If your leadership team is teachers, I would say it would be remiss to not include them. Teachers should be part of that conversation. You want them to have the kind of day that evidences the work that you are doing, and I can't imagine doing that without teachers. I'll just leave it at that.
I facilitate our report being put together, of course, but the OVT wants the teachers there because they want to ask them the questions. They're the ones who are really driving that work. So it is pretty imperative that you have those teacher leaders present for that meeting.
This is Delana Smith from Fort Scott, USD 234. I just wanted to clarify that summary and that narrative is just as important still as what those results are. We've had 4 of our 9 administrators have turned over this past year. The change in the requirement for the read aloud on the state assessment is going to make a huge impact on student scores, because we're going to have a lot of kids who have had to read aloud who now don't get that option. Some of that, obviously, we need to be doing better on our part to better identify those students and not put ourselves in that situation. We're in year 4, and we really will not be at a good ending point of, hey, we've arrived even in a specific area next year. And so a lot of our new leaders have a lot of concerns about not really showing that achievement that they would like to see. And I've kept going back to, this is where we make sure that that narrative is strong, and we continue to stress the work that we're doing. And since it is continuous school improvement, really just emphasizing where we continue to go in the future. Is that the correct directive to give to them, or should we be looking at that differently?
No, you're looking at it exactly how you should be looking at it. You're going to tell the story in the narrative of our admin turned over. Our scores have not been what we want them to be. MTSS is being tightened, strengthened, etc. And here's the data piece we're using to measure that. Y'all are making comments that I swear I did not pay you to make. Yes, the answer is yes, yes, and more yes. That's correct. You heard her talk about execution, process, and results right there. And evidence of it in her summary with her documents, etc. Thank you. I'm going to meet Bill at the lake. I don't know, Delana, where do I need to meet to, yes, pat you on the back and say, that's exactly right. I do have a system who called and said, I don't want what's in my story anymore. It's not good. Well, I really don't want the chapter between 18 and 22 years of age in my life either, but it's there, right? So it is a part of the story, and it does stay there.
Well, I said we would kind of cut this off at 9:50 unless somebody has just a burning question that they want to present, and then we can take a quick break before we actually officially start the curriculum leaders meeting.
Thank you, guys. Stay in touch if you have other questions. I am happy to help.
And if this group has any suggestions for topics for networking for the next time, don't hesitate in reaching out and letting Pat know what those topics are, or directly to me. I'll put my email address in the chat, and we will make sure that we try and cover those in our next networking session. Thanks for joining us this morning.